everybody, my name is Megan. You're watching Miss Megan Knits, and links to anything I talk to you about today will be in the description box below. I'm here in the basement today, which I just painted, and if you were angled any more upward, you would see there's painter's tape still on the walls. It's been dried for a while, I've just been too lazy to peel the tape off. Anywho, also because we're in the basement, you may hear footsteps above me. I really can't do anything about that. I live with other humans. We're just gonna try and roll with it. COVID's been hard because when I was doing my earlier videos, I was doing them when I had time home alone or when it was just me and my dad and he was like just hanging out being quiet. So I had the quiet time, but now that all four of us are home, my sister, my mom, my dad, and I, somebody's making some kind of noise at all times. It's unavoidable. That's really all I can do. So, I did want to explain briefly my absence. I have a whole video that didn't get very many views, but a whole video about why I haven't been knitting, so you can check that out if you want more details. The long and short of it is I have bipolar disorder, I hit a horrible mixed episode, everything in my life went wrong at once, and I really just couldn't film, especially because I wasn't knitting, so there's not much to talk about if I'm not knitting. In fact, this current video is going to summarize basically everything I haven't caught you guys up on, but that's only going to be a regular size video. Like my little outline is about the normal length it usually is. So I did what I usually do in the span of 2 weeks in like 6 months. But that's okay, you know? How I currently am, I actually wrote that in my outline. How I currently am, I'm alright. The bipolar is currently in remission, so that's doing better than it has been in the last 10 years, which is great, but I'm currently experiencing a ton of anxiety. I've started school again. School is a really big anxiety trigger for me. I get really nervous about it. I don't know, man. Something's always going wrong. So, oh, and I'm also having a lot of fatigue in the middle of the day to the point where I have to sleep for a couple hours, even if I've had a full night's sleep. And that's really annoying, so I'm trying to not have that happen, but we're trying to figure out which medication is causing the problem. And we think the one that is causing the problem is one I can't really cut down on because, as you'll see in the other video I talked about, I have a movement disorder called tardive dyskinesia that is really painful just because you're moving your muscles so darn much they get really sore. And the medication makes me not do that, so yeah. That was the quick version. But you know what? You gotta roll with it. I gotta roll with it. Did I break down and cry a whole bunch yesterday? Yes. But I gotta roll with it, you know? You really only got one body, one brain, one life, so. I think that's it for how I currently am. We're gonna talk about our FOs, the things I've abandoned, the things that I'm the one whip. I have one whip. Can you believe it? Me. One whip. Whoa, you know? I'm hoping to start something else soon, though. And then a conclusion. So, man, somebody's walking around up there doing laps. We have, for FOs, we have the Kirby Socks. Now, I've finished those. I gifted those to my sister before she left for college. She was very grateful for them, I guess. She liked them. Positive reviews, I guess. And because of that, I don't have them here to show you. But I've been working on them for videos and videos and videos, so go back and watch like my last video and you will have seen the first one completely finished. And I talk all about all the techniques I use there. Because I don't have a visual, I'm probably not gonna spend much time, but I did use Cascade Yarns Heritage Solids in the colors Chanterelle, Placid Blue, Dusty Turquoise, and Lemon. And I used some duplicate stitch, knit pick stroll for the eyes on the foot. You'll know what I mean if you see the visual. Knit pick stroll, for that one, and then I did duplicate stitch, I did Fair Isle, and then I did the mosaic patterning. They're like thigh-high socks, crazy long, calf shaping, you know, thigh shaping, the works. But if you want the information about that, my Instagram has a lot of pictures of them because I was really proud of them. And I will link my Ravelry page below to that. My Instagram is also linked, should be. So you can check me out there. And, you know, Ravelry's linked so that you can see all the details. I'm not sure if I weighed it and did yardage or not, by the time I finished the socks, I was starting to not be in a very good place. I was pretty depressed, so not sure if I did the total of the math. I don't know if I did the math, basically. I'm actually impressed right now about like how my brain managed to do all that math, because when I was doing most of the drafting and the mathing of the Kirby socks, I was in a little bit of a manic place, maybe a hypomanic, I guess I would call it. So I was running on too many cylinders and was basically just, everything worked out so nicely and I had so much energy. And now I'm like, how did I do that? Like, I'm impressed with myself, you know? So, anyhow. Oh, for the needles, I use Knit Picks Ginger in sizes 2 and 6. I use 6 for the Fair Isle and 2 for everything else, because that's how gauge happened. If you followed my other videos, you know I knit most of the sock and then realized my gauge on the Fair Isle section was off. And I had to rip it all back. That's okay though. I'm gonna drink. This is raspberry lemonade. It's one of those little pouches you put in the water bottle. This bottle is from IKEA. It was like $2. And it's called the Berglub. And I think that's hysterical. So like, I refer to it as the Berglub because I think it's funny. I don't know what it actually means, because I know the IKEA names are like words in Swedish. I'm not sure what Berglub means, but it's the Berglub. Quite nice for a $2 water bottle. You know, it's not gonna be your Nalgene, you know, but it's doing pretty good. I haven't talked to a camera for an hour in a long time. Hasn't been an hour yet. I don't know how long it's been. 7 minutes. Well. Okay, my other FO, it's really important, is my granny square blanket. Remember, I've been talking about it forever. Making squares after squares after squares. Here's the deal. My goal was like 138 squares because I wanted to make a bedspread for my bed. My bed's a queen size bed, and I, you know, kind of figured that would be about how many I would need. Here's my problem. I hit an episode, didn't work in it for 6 months, was about to give up on it, and then decided I'm just going to count how many squares I have and then sew them together and make something with what's happened. Right? What I've already made, I'm just going to take those and run with it because I don't have the energy to make a bunch more. Hang on. Nothing. I had to sneeze. It went away. So that's what I did. I took all the squares. I had, I think 77 or 88. I don't know. I don't know how many I had, but it was, ended up working out to a perfect Afghan size. And I have 1 square left over. So this, without further ado, is my blanket. I picked these yarns because the colors made me happy. So this is all scrap stash diving, with the exception of a couple skeins I bought with gift cards and stuff, because I wanted more colors. But can't tell if you can see any of that because my face was behind the blanket. But here's the deal. So I took a bunch of worsted weight acrylic yarns, number 4 acrylics. So I've got pretty much every brand. I've got Lion Brand, I've got Karen, I've got Red Heart, I've got Stitch Studio by Nicole, pretty much everybody. Some Yarn Bee even. Like, I've got everything, even though I don't support Yarn Bee, especially not now, but ta-da! The only problem I found with using all different yarns is that they're all slightly different. So Karen Simply Soft, for example, is what I did for the border, which I'll talk about in a sec. I also did it, each square has gray as the last round of Granny, and the same Karen Simply Soft to kind of tie them together. And that one's quite a bit thinner than, say, your Super Saver. And so I had some problems with, like, they're kind of puffy. Which, to me, is, like, minor issue, especially for such a beautiful, scrappy blanket with all the cool colors in it. But that's what we got. I'm probably gonna have Noah, I asked him over text this morning that when he comes over today, if he could take some pictures of me in my lovely new blanket. And so maybe there's artful Instagram pictures up by the time you see this of me in the blanket. Or maybe he said no. I don't think he's gonna say no. He usually takes the pictures of me, like, for my FOs that I'm really proud of, so hopefully I get some good pictures. Probably need to fix my hair before that happens, though. The bangs came out kind of funky. It's straight, but since it's been cut short, oh, by the way, new hair. Since it's been cut short, it's a lot more poofy and it moves a lot more. I have very fine hair, so it looks a lot thicker, actually, now that it can move and has layers and stuff. But didn't look so great in pictures, and I have to learn how to style bangs. I've never really had bangs. I had them once, I think. When I had them in, like, kindergarten, I had to wear the Explorer haircut, which is awful. I cringe just thinking about it. Back to the blanket. How did I get from yarns of different thicknesses and puffy to my hair? Oh, because I didn't take a picture of it. Okay. So the pattern I used is the triple cuff granny square from the Emmy and Liam blog. You can find it on the blog for free, or you can purchase a printable PDF from her. Do recommend either one. Actually, I didn't purchase the PDF. I kept saying, I gotta purchase it. Like, I'm making so many squares, I should really purchase it, and then forgot. Because I memorized it and I wasn't, like, referring it. Anyway. She used fingering weight in her squares. I used worsted, so mine came out bigger and a little bit less delicate and beautiful looking, but that's just how it is. I changed colors every round. My rules were that the last round of Granny had to be gray, like I showed you, and zoom in by moving my body. The inside color had to be the same as the outside border. I sewed these together, or I crocheted them together with a slip stitch border. So the back doesn't look quite so nice. You can see the color of, like, beige I used to slip stitch them together. And it was a very kind of tedious process of just slip stitching. Basically, you just go through both squares and you slip stitch. I forget the tutorial I used for that, but it might have been Natasia's tutorial. Don't know, but it's a pretty basic technique. You can find tutorials everywhere on the internet. Okay, I don't know if you can hear that. We're in the basement. The, appliance things. The central air is down here. The water heater's down here. Oh, a lot of stuff's down here, so random pipes making random noises happens. The border I did in tulip stitch. So let me zoom in again. So what I like about tulip stitch is that it works very nicely with the granny because you've still got clusters of 3 double crochets, just like you do in granny. It's just that they're placed a little bit differently. It's a really cool stitch. I don't see it used a lot, but it works up pretty fast. Very easy to do. And it's very rhythmic. You just count to 3, count to 3, count to 3, count to 3. Because you're like chaining 3, and then you're double crocheting 3, and then you're, chaining 3, double crocheting 3. It's like 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. There's some single crochets in there. I didn't just describe the whole thing. Look it up. When I looked it up to try and see if I could find a tutorial that did it in the round, because I was doing it around the blanket, didn't find one. I found 2 different tulip stitches, though. So this is not the one that looks like tulips. It's the kind of crisscrossy double crochet one. And you could continue it into like a big block of stuff. I just didn't. I was going to make a thicker border, and then I realized I wanted to be done. So I got to the end of round 2 of border and said, screw it, I'm done. Well, it was round 3 because I did a single crochet around. The corners, I completely made up. Like, completely made up. These are not real corners. I did not do any special technique with them. I looked at each corner's different. I didn't even do the same thing on all of them. But I looked at it and I was like, let me stick maybe 2 clusters, ? And then I did it, and then I looked at it to see if it was ruffling or puckering, and it was not. But then the other corner, for example, if we go to another corner, let's travel here. This corner has a completely different setup. So I just kind of stuck extra stuff in there so it looked right. And I don't regret that at all. That was a very good decision on my part. By the way, this one was my first square, and it was my favorite, so I feel the need to show it again. And this one's probably my least favorite square, so I feel the need to show that one too. Let me see if I didn't cover anything for the hook, right? Yes, so I use the Knit Picks Bright crochet hook 5mm, which I've learned has no US equivalent, I think. I learned that a while ago. I could be wrong. But here it is. It's an aluminum hook with a rubbery grip. It is I would call it a boy style hook rather than a Bates. It's not inline, I don't think. Yeah. Don't think it's, maybe it is. Maybe it's an inline hook. I don't know if that's a boy hook. Who am I kidding? Boy versus Bates, I guess. Which I have learned is two different styles of hook. I learned on an inline hook, but this set is not inline and I'm doing just fine. I don't crochet enough to have a really strong preference one way or the other. But they're definitely different. There's a different feel. Oh, yes. That's all of it. Okay. Now, I'm gonna get the blanket off my lap because I'm kind of warm. Oh wait, it's visible. Go away, get invisible. There we go. Sorry, it doesn't, having the thing in the corner just doesn't look right. Oh yeah, you can see the pillows behind me though. I'm gonna not move now so you can't see them. A nice plain gray background looks beautiful, doesn't it? Anywho, my other FO, which, you know, I'm not as enthusiastic about this one as the other ones, but this one I called the Mindless Scarf, which is now a cowl. Cowl with a little twist in it, look. So here's the deal. I started this one with the logic that I was having a bad time and place in my life. Like I was in the throes of mixed episode hell, which by the way is my least favorite part of being bipolar. Which basically means you have manic symptoms of a lot of energy as well as depressive symptoms of feeling really bad about yourself all at the same time, and it's hell. So I was in that, and I was thinking that when I learned to knit, when I first got into knitting, it was because I was making like garter stitch scarves. Well, okay, I learned at age 9, but then at like age 17, I started making some garter stitch scarves to kind of calm my nerves. It was literally garter stitch. It was literally super bulky. I was trying to just relax myself, calm down, and I made several. And then that's what got me into wanting to learn more. You know, I hit a different point in my life where I really wanted to learn things and try new experiences, and knitting gave me a way to do that because I learned how to knit lace, I learned how to knit cables, I learned, you know, Fair Isle. Never learned Intarsia. Tried. Didn't like it. Made socks, made mittens, you know, learned all these new things. So, but before that I was just really on garter stitch scarves. I'm like, you know what, back to basics. Let's do something really simple. Let's just do a nice wide scarf in a very simple stitch and use that to meditate and calm my mind. No. I forgot I don't like scarves. And the reason I don't like scarves is because they're shorter rows, right? Because you're going back and forth this way. But you have a lot of rows. And usually they're very boring, right? Like this is seed stitch, you can see. Looks lovely, it's very squishy. I like seed stitch. This was a lot of knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one forever. And I was losing my mind. I was so bored. And I didn't want to pick it up. And then when I did pick it up, I was like not having fun. So this might have been a little too simple for me. I was aiming to make a big comfy scarf. Didn't really get that far. So what I did to put myself out of my misery is I took it, I twisted it once, right like that, and then I whip stitched it together very sloppily because I was still not in a place where I cared that much. So let me see. Oh, it's not that bad because the seed stitch kind of hides it. But I didn't pay attention to the seam. There's no mattress stitching. There's no fancy pants. It was literally just whip stitching around to get it to be a cowl. And I was like, look at me. I'm done. I'm putting this away and not touching it again. So that's how that happened. This yarn is beautiful. This is Stitch Studio by Nicole Paz. So I believe it's been discontinued. I got this at my local AC Moore's closeout sale. AC Moore got bought by Michaels, and we have a Michaels like across the street from our AC Moore. So our AC Moore is probably not going to reopen as a Michaels because I've heard some of them are doing that. They're reopening as Michaels stores, but we've got one right across the street, so it wouldn't be very smart to just open it. this is that. It's a squishy cowl. It's very soft. I love the yarn. Like, see if I can put it up to the screen and block everything else so it'll focus. Did that work? Beautiful. It's in the colorway Cocoa, by the way, in case you can find that somewhere. I have a whole bunch of skeins of pads. It's great because they're super bulky skeins, but they come in 300-gram skeins, or 250 maybe, something like that, which is cool because with super bulky, 100-gram skein isn't going to get you very far, you know, because the yarn is thicker, you don't have as much yardage per gram, and it's just not going to get you very far. This reads as a super bulky on the label. I would call it more of a bulky. I wouldn't call it a super bulky myself. Maybe it is because it's kind of fluffy, but it doesn't feel like that to me, if that's anything to go by. Oh, cool thing about seed stitch, my trick. If you're doing like a scarf like this where it doesn't matter how many you cast on, because obviously if you're doing like something with a fit, you need to cast on the number you need for your gauge, or for the pattern. But if it doesn't matter and you're making a scarf, cast on an odd number, because that way you will always start with a knit stitch. So with seed stitch, if you cast on an even number, you will start with a knit, then start with a purl on the next row, then start with a knit on the next row. But if you cast on an odd number, it always starts knit. And I prefer starting things with a knit. I can start things with a purl and it comes out fine, but just preference-wise, I like to start with a knit. So that's my trick, cast on an odd number, if you can do that. Oh, and my needles. I posted on Facebook in the Together We Knit group from Knit Picks my kind of story of knitting or something. I wrote something cute, and then I posted a picture of me knitting this scarf. And what I got questions on were the needles. What are the needles? The needles were Knitter's Pride marbles, size 11, which would work nicely with this yarn. But Knitter's Pride marbles, and I think they're discontinued. I think, because when I've tried to link to them in the past, I haven't been able to find them, other than like a pair of one size somewhere on eBay. So I think they're gone, but they were acrylic needles, and they're beautiful marbled cut texture. They're from Knit Picks. No, Knitter's Pride. Ooh. I think I might have said Knit Picks when I meant Knitter's Pride for the ginger needles on socks. Okay. The socks I knit, Kirby Socks, Knitter's Pride, ginger needles. And then this hook is a Knit Picks hook. I abbreviate both of them KP, which I feel like is a bad system to do the two major people I get needles from and hooks from and abbreviate them both the same, but whatever. Anyway, the Knitter's Pride marbles, they were my first ever set of interchangeables, proper knitting needles. Got them the Christmas I kind of started getting into knitting, and my family was very supportive of my knitting, and they're just warm fuzzies, you know, nostalgia. My first real knitting needles. Yeah, okay, got it. I got it. Now we're gonna talk about some stuff I let go of. I wasn't knitting a lot, and so I wanted to make sure the knitting I was doing was bringing me joy, right? Like, sometimes when I was knitting a ton, I would power through a boring project or a project that wasn't fulfilling because, you know, I had an end game, right? I had like, oh, I really want to make this thing, or oh, I want to give this to somebody or whatever. But at the time when I was not doing well and just struggling to pick up the needles to begin with, I wanted to make sure that the needles had on them something I was really excited about. In that vein, had to let some stuff go. The first one I'm going to talk about, and it's out of order, so I hope I remember this. This is a hat I was making my dad for Christmas. It's come a long way since you've last seen it, but it wasn't doing it for me. So this is a hat that I designed. It will not be going anywhere because the gauge is really weird. It's in like 3 inches, like per 3 inches, which is not how anybody measures gauge. It's usually either 1 inch or 4 inches. But it wouldn't work out to an even number if I did that. So 3 inches. And I did all the math. It's a very, very dense fabric. I am using 2 skeins of Lion Brand woolies. So not the thick and quick, but the regular. Held double. And so it's a worsted held double on size 4 needles. It's tight. It's really uncomfortably tight. I have carpal tunnel in both of my wrists because I have such tiny wrists that there's not enough room for everything, and my ligaments get squished around and my nerves get angry. That's my medical description. Don't take medical advice from me. But I was just really, I was fighting with it in the first place. I made it this tight because my dad likes a really dense gauge in knitting. He appreciates knitting by how dense it is. And so I aimed to deliver. But it was just, I had to wear braces when I was knitting, not splints, but braces, to kind of support my wrists, and I could only knit a little time. I got all the way up to the decreases at the top, and then what I had planned for the decreases was to put markers in and then do center double decreases near the markers. So really simple, you don't have to count anything, and then you can just do the center double decreases. But for some reason, when I was not doing well, that really overwhelmed me. It was too much. Too much thinking, too much work. My brain wasn't functioning properly at the time. I had just been introduced to Tegretol, which really screwed with me for a while until my body, I guess, got used to processing it or whatever happens, right? Doctor explained to me something in the liver makes you process the drug differently once you've gotten used to it and your body knows it's there, so then things are going to change, blah, 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 blah. It happened. It got a lot better. I take Tegretol now. I'm fine. But at the time, my brain was not working, and it was just really frustrating me and making me upset. So I'm like, no, what? I'm letting it go. I put it in a bag, and I'm putting it in hibernation, and I will come back to it maybe at some point. But that's it. So the yarn is Lion Brand Woolies in Natural Heather, which I held double-stranded. Needles are US 4 Knitter's Pride Dreams, and then I was planning on switching to the Zing DPNs. I hate aluminum needles. I don't like the Zings because I don't like aluminum. It's not the Zings specifically that's the problem. It's the material aluminum. I've heard other people have this too, but not everybody. My hand sweats. It touches the aluminum. Things get squeaky. Things get really hard to move. It's a pain in the behind, and I hate it. This hook is aluminum up here. Yeah, aluminum up here. But the grip, if I hold it by the grip or hold like just a finger on the aluminum, I'm fine. So that's how I get around that. But hate aluminum needles and all aluminum crochet hooks. I hate them. And it's not just me, it's other people. I have a hand antiperspirant I can use. It's like a deodorant for your hands from Carpe. But it's really not a fun product to use. It's not nice and lotiony. It's kind of stiff and chalky, and I don't like to use it. So I get around that by using wood needles or metal nickel needles. Nickel doesn't do that to me. Aluminum does. So that's my fun fact. I've probably said that a whole bunch on my channel because I feel very passionately about my hatred of aluminum. But my only suitable US 4 needles that are long enough were Zings. And, you know, Zing is getting kind of the beat down today, but it's just aluminum in general. It's not just Zing. Okay. So the stitch is a Roman rib stitch. Which is pretty cool. It's a 2x2 rib. No, 1x1 rib, but alternated 2 rows. So 1x1 rib for 2 rows, and then you switch it, switch it, switch it, switch it. It's really easy to read the knitting. I picked this stitch because I have made Dad a pair of fingerless gloves that were also in this stitch that he really liked and that were the same kind of color. So I wanted to kind of make like a matching hat because he really likes those gloves. But unfortunately, it is not to be, at least not right now. Yeah, I'm hibernating it. I've still got the needles in it, right? So it might come back. My tip for hibernating projects actually is I have a little hair elastic, little small clear elastic on the needles so that, because they're long-term, storage, I don't want things to slip around. And I left myself notes in the bag about where I was, what I was doing. I included the pattern. I would rip needles out at the very last minute if I really needed them for something else, but I would try to keep them with the project so that everything's really easy to remember and do. But yeah, kind of sad that I got all the way up there and then missed out. Okay. I think yep. Bullies, needles, rib, carpal tunnel. Check. Okay. By the way, my carpal tunnel doesn't get aggravated all the time. But when I was working on that hat, it was aggravated. And when it gets aggravated in general. So I was having problems writing. I was having problems knitting other projects. Opening doors was like the worst. It just got angry. I had to sleep with splints on in my sleep to try and not sleep like this. Because I do normally sleep kind of in these weird positions with my wrists. But normally the carpal tunnel is not so angry, so it just rolls with it. You know, my body figures itself out. I wake up tingly, but then I'm fine. But when I'm working on that hat, the carpal tunnel gets really bad at me and like starts to make everything more painful. Oh, okay. So I got something in the abandoned category. It's very serious. We gotta talk about Plarn. I have been working on Plarn since, I believe, the beginning of my YouTube channel. I have crocheted Plarn, if for those who are new, is plastic bag yarn. It is basically you cut out plastic bags into loops. You loop the loops together, make a big string. You crochet with the string. What I was crocheting with the string were sleeping mats for homeless people. So like really big, just rectangles that were the size that you could lay down on them and fold yourself up like a taco and have some insulation. A lot of people were pairing them with like blankets and stuff like that to get a little bit more comfort, but I was doing the plastic bag part. And honestly, like, it was a lot to keep up with. I made about 8 mats and was working on my 9th and loved it, but it's a lot. I was doing all the bag prep. I was doing all of the crochet, and I was just kind of being fed bags from various sources that began to pile up like a giant mountain, and it was really overwhelming. I had become unable to give the bags away because I wasn't going to church due to COVID, and I was giving the mats. I was giving the mats to the church at COVID, and then someone else would take them and take them to the organization the church helps with, which is basically a truck that people who are experiencing homelessness go to the truck, and they have all kinds of good things on the truck, food and, you know, clean water and soap and like socks and t-shirts, hats and scarves in the winter, coffee, like hot coffee, you know, things like that. And, you know, the mats were going there. And I was getting a lot of good feedback from the people who were the truck volunteers, telling me that people were really happy about their mats and really liking them. My problem is it just became too much for me to handle. And the good thing about Plarn is that it's relatively free and I can start back up at any time. But what I ended up doing was giving all of the bags I had accumulated to someone else in the community who was working on Plarn mats, and they took them. So that was it. So it didn't get wasted. It still went to somebody. The mat I had in progress ended up being about this big, and I ended up folding it in half and putting it in front of my washing machine. I have front load washer and dryer, and I had to kneel down to put the clothes in and take the clothes out, and my knees get bruised very easily. We have any bruises today? Yep. Very easily, especially because I found out I was iron deficient, which is a whole other story. I now take a multivitamin with iron in it because I wasn't anemic, I was just a little bit deficient. But that contributed to bruising. Anyway, I was getting all these bruises and it was really like uncomfortable, so I put that mat there to kind of cushion my knees. And that's it. That's the story. Plarn is not really happening. I feel bad about it, but I also feel good about it. You know, I feel bad that I'm not being able to help in that way, but I also feel really relieved to kind of have that stress off me. And there are, of course, other ways I can help, you know, my community other than mats. Glub, 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 glub. Okay. So that's the whole page. We're flipping to that now. Whip. My whip. I'm really thinking of starting something new, which I'll talk about, but this is my only whip right now. So I have a pair of scrappy purpley socks for my sister Wesley. Trying to figure out how to untangle. There you go. So you will see, first off, actually, let's see. Okay. We're going to go in a logical order here. This sock is made of scraps of fingering weight yarn. I am using them all individually. I'm cutting between, and I'm using the weave and steven method to anchor them in. And we're going to see how well they hold up. Because I just was not going to weave in all these ends after doing the Kirby sock. Seeing all those ends. If you want to see how many ends, head to my Instagram and scroll until you find the picture that shows one of them right side out, one of them inside out with all the ends. A lot of ends. Not doing that again. That was too much. So I'm weaving Steven, and I've, seen some people trying it out. Steven West is obviously saying it's a great method, so I'm going to find out. This is, basically I used the pattern from the Kirby sock and modified it a little. What's really cool is once I measure someone's feet and get a good idea of a pattern, I can really easily change up the pattern without doing too much extra math and work. So these are the socks. Instead of doing stockinette all around on the foot, I did a 2x2 rib, and I'm continuing that 2x2 rib all the way up the front, but the back is still staying stockinette. Some people switch to 2x2 all the way around for the leg part, and I did not. I'm still keeping it just the front. The heel is from Modern Daily Knitting. The heel is from Modern Daily Knitting, and it's the toe up heel flap and gusset, written by Kate Atherley on their blog. And I think I'll link that. If I don't remember to link that below, it is definitely in the Ravelry notes that I will definitely link below. I'll remember the Ravelry, even if I don't remember the, specific link. Or you can just look it up. I looked up how to do toe up, heel flap and gusset toe up, and that's what came up for me. So I'm using for needles Knit Picks 40. This is actually Knit Picks 40-inch circular, 40-inch circular nickel plated, size 2, which 2.75 millimeters. That's my usual size for socks. That gets me about 8 stitches an inch. That's a bit big. A lot of people use 1s and 0s, but for me, a 2 is what does the job. So that's what I use. And people ask, is your knitting super tight? No, it moves pretty freely on the needle. It's it slides. It doesn't feel tight to me. It's comfortable to work. Which is weird because my gauge in most other types of knitting with larger needles is too big. So I usually have to downsize for mittens and hats, and I usually have to upsize for socks. That's just me. And everybody's got their own thing, so. I would like to point out this is Magic Loop. I have been a profound DPN user and lover for the entirety of my knitting career. I did try Magic Loop with these. I'm using a 40-inch, which I'm learning is a little excessive for one sock at a time. I was worried I wouldn't have enough cord and would be constantly forgetting how to separate the two halves and stuff, but no, never had that problem. Really think I just made a little extra work for myself with longer cord. And I like this one. I don't know much about Magic Loop cords though. This one's working for me, but I don't know if it's particularly nice or not, so wouldn't go by my advice. I will say though, it was relatively inexpensive, so if you're looking to try it out, maybe start here because it's not a bad one. I'm not having a hard time. These are nickel needles again, so not aluminum. Don't have the sweaty hands problem. They're pointy enough. They're not super pointy, but they're pointy enough. I could do a lace sock on these, but they're not so pointy that I have a hard time operating them. But yes, I tried Magic Loop. The reason I tried Magic Loop is because I have tardive dyskinesia, and at the time I started these socks, which was a while ago, I'm making much slower progress than I have been. I was having like little hand freakouts. It's really weird. Like, I'm doing something and I drop it, and I even now sometimes will, like, when I'm doing my makeup, throw a brush somewhere on accident, and I was worried that if I was using DPNs, all that dropping and picking up, they would fall out. Whereas the Magic Loop is a little bit more stable if you're dropping, if you're picking up, if you're like, clumsy. I felt like this was a little bit more safe. So I tried it. I will say I did Judy's Magic Cast On with Magic Loop for the first time. So much easier. I always did it on DPNs. DPNs are a lot more fiddly. I would consider even using these just for the cast on and switching to DPNs if I wanted to knit a sock on DPNs, because I love Judy Magic Cast On, but on hard needles rather than the flexible cord, it's really tricky. Not tricky. It's easy to understand once you know it, but it's like fiddly. So yes, so that was easier. I like having only 2 needles. That's nice. And I like just the ease of it. I don't have to worry about if I put it in a bag, are things going to come out. I don't have to worry about having a separate holder device to secure the DPNs if whatever happens. I don't have to worry about if I'm on the go and I drop a needle and it rolls into oblivion. Where has my needle gone? Oh no, right? So that's nice. I also don't have to worry about dropping a needle in the recliner. I haven't done that, but I'm terrified I will drop a DPN in the recliner and then never be able to see it again. Or like sit on it 2 years later. Yeah. Most of the scraps in this stock are Knit Picks Capretta. So a lot of the purples, these, not the green, but the Capretta. And that's what is left over from the shawl, the Scania. Hello. I tied it in. Look at me, shawl tie-in. This is the Scania shawl, made out of various shades of purple Knit Picks Capretta. Very comfy, very cozy. I'm very proud of it. And now Wesley will get remnants. And I literally, you can check Instagram for the artful photo, because this is going to be like the quick version. But I just have like little balls of stuff, you know? The green was left over. I did a heel with that and didn't have the rest of it. Purple. Like, there's just little bits of things. And I have to, oh shoot. I got something tangled on the zipper of the bag. Come on, there we go. Okay. I hate when I do that. I don't love bags with zippers. This bag, by the way, also from AC Moore, also probably discontinued, but quite a nice bag. I've used this a lot. Do enjoy. Yeah, so that's fun. So that's what I'm working on right now. Did I miss anything? Fingering stripes, modern daily knitting, 40-inch circular, US 2. No. I originally had planned on making these sampler socks as well, so like doing different patterns on the front, but then realized that's a lot, and didn't end up doing that. Okay. So, oh, besides Capretta, I have some Stroll and I have some Chroma. I believe that's it. Oh, Stroll, Chroma, and then one Peyton's Croix for the heel is what's in there, but it's mostly Capretta. By the way, Knit Picks Capretta is the yarn I would want a fingering weight sweater in. The problem is I do not have the patience to knit a fingering weight sweater. My watch keeps vibrating at me. My watch, my Fitbit, whatever you call it, keeps vibrating at me. I have the face with the Bitmoji, so like it's a little cartoon of me sitting cross-legged, being zen, which I think is funny because I'm also sitting cross-legged in real life. Little things, right? Okay, so I wanted to talk about future casting. Sometimes I like to do this at the end of my videos if I have time. I do have time, I think. It doesn't matter. I can make the video as long as I want. I'm in charge. I'm in charge. And I keep getting caught on my Scania fringe loops. It's cool fringe though, because it's knitted in and then unraveled. It's knitted in and then unraveled. Instead of being like tied on at the end. So that's awesome. Also, future casting. What have I got in my stash? I'm trying to use stash because I don't want to buy new yarn if I'm not super confident I'll be knitting a ton, you know what, with it. And so that kind of excludes a lot of big projects. What I've got in my stash are usually like a skein of this or 2 skeins of that. It's not like sweater quantities. So I gotta get creative. I don't have a lot of nicer yarn either. I have, again, a skein of this, a skein of that, but not a ton. I've got some dishcloth cotton. I actually got rid of the mill ends. So I have a big box set aside that I'm going to be donating to our recreation department in town for their kind of crafting things. Because I just can't. Like, the yarn was haunting me. It was mocking me. It was being mean, you know? I should love my stash. I shouldn't be upset by it. So I took everything that I didn't think I was going to use and got rid of it and learned my lesson about not to buy yarn unless I really have a designated, like, I am going to use it. Right now I still have enough of a stash that I'm trying to use stash, but I'm not going to buy anything unless I'm casting on, like, that day. You know, if I'm doing it right then, I'll buy yarn. And that'll be my rule to myself. Which works for me because I don't tend to cast on a lot of stuff that I'm not using or that I won't continue. You know, I usually have about 5 going, and that's it. So it's an okay rule for me in my situation. Some people, I think, would just cast on a whole bunch of different stuff. And then they would just end up with a whole bunch of new cast-ons because they bought yarn, and then what do you do, right? But that's not really my style, I guess. Oh, so what I've got are a lot of worsted weight acrylics still. I've got a lot of super bulky. I actually have more of Paz in some different colors, as well as a couple of super bulkies. I've got some bulky yarns that I really want to use. I got 3 skeins of 2 different kinds of bulky yarn that I thought were really pretty that I got at Job Lot that I want to use. I don't know. I've just been kind of looking at what do I want. I mean, obviously hats, right? You can make a hat out of anything. Anything can be a hat. I have a couple of fingering weight shawl type skeins, but really only 1 skein, and I don't have another one that goes, like, none of them go. And I have about 1 pair of socks worth of sock yarn in brown. So, like, I don't know. I'm not really feeling the amigurumi life. Worsted weight acrylic could be a hat or mittens or something, but, like, nothing's really inspired me. I go back and forth, and that's why I haven't cast on anything else. You know, I have 4 open slots out of my 5, so I just haven't figured it out yet. Not sure how much, like, complicated knitting I want to do either. Like, am I up for lace? Do I want to just do, you know, stockinette or ribbing or something? I don't know. I've got a trowel on Ravelry. Troll. What kind of word was that? Trowel? Yeah. I'm gonna go on Ravelry and look at a lot of things. Okay. So that's it. My conclusion. In conclusion, I'm not sure how regularly I'll be uploading after this. You did see I have 1 whip, and I'm not working on it. I don't knit every day anymore. You know, I used to be, if I'm sitting, I'm knitting, I'm always knitting. Now I'm not really doing that. So I'm not quite sure how much interesting stuff I'll have to talk about in the future, how often I'll have interesting stuff to talk about. But so don't expect, like, the regular 2 weeks from me, unless I end up feeling like it 2 weeks from now. Just keep your expectations kind of cool, you know? I was inspired to upload this video because I wasn't going to. I went through a period where I was like, you know what, I'm going to come back on YouTube and I'm going to make, like, really nice, high quality, production value, professional level videos. I am not a professional videographer, video editor, content creator. That's not me, right? I don't have that skill, and I was kind of trying to like force it to happen, and then I was getting really frustrated when it wasn't happening. I actually filmed maybe 4 videos about other things before this one, and ended up not using any of the footage and getting really frustrated about, you know, editing taking forever, because I was trying to edit like the professional YouTubers, you know, like the really good edits, and I don't have that kind of time or energy to devote to that. But then, you know, more recently I kind of remembered that my whole thing has been very minimal editing, you know. My whole thing has been, I'm going to sit here and talk to the camera for like an hour and edit out only the big things, you know, watch through and make sure I don't like give away my social security number on accident. You know, something big and important, and edit that out. But other than that, like, just leave it. And like, I don't do thumbnail photos, you know, it's just, YouTube chooses them for me, and I pick one of the 3 that I like. What am I trying to say? My style has been kind of freeform like this, and this is what I've loved doing, is this kind of style. And I hadn't, I guess, thought to go back to that style until I got a message on Instagram from somebody who watches me. You know who you are. That kind of reminded me that, like, people like what I do, like what I naturally do, what I do, not when I'm trying to be somebody else or do something super fancy or put in a lot of, you know, quality takes time and effort, and I don't have that time and effort, right? People just enjoy me. I'm delightful. But I got that message, and it really inspired me to record today and do just more casual and hang out and talk to you like I'm talking to a friend, because that's me. I ramble for an hour at a time. That's me. So, thank you to that person who messaged me. Again, you will know, because you will know that you messaged me. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Megan. See if I remember how to do this. My name is Megan. This has been Miss Megan Knits. Links to everything in the description box below. Have a good day. What do I usually say? Have a good day. Bye. Don't fall. Don't fall. Don't fall.